All right, so now we're going to talk about brace expansion. We can use braces to expand strings and stuff like that. It's slightly different than globbing. I will show you some of the differences as we go along. Let me just show you some quick examples here. So what exactly do I mean by brace expansion? Well, I talked about it a little bit earlier, but I didn't go too deep into it. But we can do some cool things. We can use curly braces and we can say something like hello, comma, world. And then we close this curly brace, we hit enter, we get hello, and we get world. This got broken up into two separate arguments that were given to Echo, so we can expand things like this. We could put multiple things in here, foo, bar, baz, and now we have multiple arguments here. I can prove they're multiple arguments. We can use a nice little printf. We can do that notation of %s, new line here, and then we can see it separates them all by new lines, which is pretty cool. If you quote them, it gets the literal string. So if you want literal curly braces, quote them. But without the quotes, you get that nice little expansion, and it is super useful. And this is really cool because you can do things like getting file names. So here, let me make a little script here. We'll call this curly brace expansion. And we'll go ahead and do what we always do. There we go. Now we have a nice little script, chmod +x, curly brace expansion. Run that, and now we can do something simple like this. We could do file name equals my file, and then we can echo file name dot, and then we can do multiple extensions here. We could say text, JPEG, MOV, but remember what I said about the quotes? We have to close the quotes here. So you could close it here like this if you wanted to. You could close it here. As long as this is outside of the quotes, you will be fine. So let's go ahead and run this. Let's run curly brace expansion. And as you can see, we get myfile.txt, myfile.jpg, and myfile.mov. Here's what the source code looks like for that. So yeah, as long as you don't put that in the quotes, you'll be fine. You'll get the expansion you want. Here's the cool thing. To bash, these are just strings. These don't actually have to be files on the file system. They don't check to see that they're files on the file system. This is just a string. So that means there's no looking. It's not like globs. Globs need the files to actually be there, the wildcard notation. This is just expanding into strings. So Echo doesn't care if these files exist or don't exist. Echo just prints them out to the screen. That's what's happening there. Now, the cool thing about this is we can modify this slightly. So we have this curly brace expansion here, like this. We could do this. We could say ARR equals this, and we could make an array. Now we have an array, and here, I'll put some spaces here just so you can see it. The spaces are optional, but I'm putting there just so you can illustrate the concept better. Now we could do something like for item in array, loop over the array with this syntax that we've used before, and then echo item, done. So now we have that. I'll go ahead and pull that source code up. You can see what it looks like. You run it, and we can see we have myfile.txt, myfile.jpg, and myfile.mov. So you can store this, the output of the curly brace expansion, in an array, and it will store this properly as separate arguments, which is super nice. So they're separate items in the array. Now this comes in handy when we have like certain file names that we want to loop over. So let me give you a different example here. Say we had a file name on our system. We could do something like Etsy, foo, or bar, and then inside there might be 1, 2, or 3.text. We could store that in an array, and then when we loop over that array, we will see that we get all the combinations of that. So we can use multiple curly brace expansions to get multiple combinations of it, which is pretty neat. It's pretty cool. It's a pretty powerful thing when you start synthesizing multiple curly brace expansions together like this, because again, we're not checking the file system to see if they're there. We are just doing basic string manipulation. So when you look at this, you can see there are 6 items in that array. So that's pretty cool.